You ready?
Hold on. Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
G'day. This is Oscar Trimboli from Deep Listening. Listen up to Jeff on the Vroom Vroom Veer podcast. Trust me, it's worth listening to.
Well done. You did practice. Good for you. All right, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Bill Newton, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's fabulous. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are at unHustled.com, which I love that. That's amazing. So it sounds like you're trying to chill out and slow down and unbusy yourself, which I'm very much into. Kind of like one of the themes of my show. So talk a little bit about what you've got going on at unHustled.com.
Well, I think with UnHustled, I think you understand, or you need to understand where I come from a little bit, so you can kind of get mentality.
Please.
The really short version is that I don't buy into the hustle till your eyeballs fall out, grind, work hard, whatever that means to you. For me, it made me ill. And like physically, it put me into a hospital, because we're told from an early age to work hard. And if you work hard, you'll see success, whatever success is for you. But usually it's at the expense of long, hard hours.
Right.
And while that
Lots
does
of
work
stress.
for a lot of people, and while that does work for a lot of people, it didn't work for me, and it made me really ill. So what I found out was that I've got Crohn's disease, and that is fatigue illness. It made me ill. I had a priest stand over me and say, "Do you want the last rites?" It got that bad. It was very serious.
Wow.
So what I did is I had to figure out a way to see success. Again, however you want to measure that, whether it be monetary, whatever.
Sure.
But I had to with less time. So that's where the kind of the unhustled mindset mentality started from back in 2001, 2002 is how do I see the same success that everyone talks about, but without the large time investments? And that's what I, had to figure out, because I couldn't go and work for someone. I was kind of forced into being unemployable. Although I was railing against working for people back then, I always wanted to do my own thing. And it just literally, while it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, it was the best thing because it just gave me the push. Okay, I've got no other choices. I've got to make something work. And not only that, just the added pressure. It's got to work by the end of the month.
Wow.
Just to pay the bills, keep the lights on, put food on the table. You know what? My employer at the time actually came in and he said to me, "When you get better, there's no job waiting for you." I was like, "What? You fired me on my deathbed. I didn't even get the chance to quit." even though I couldn't.
Was he doing that out of the goodness of his heart, so to speak?
Yes. Thank you for that. But as you can probably gather from my noises and expletives, there's just no words to describe it. I couldn't work for someone anyway, which is not the point. It's like I didn't even get the chance to resign or quit. That's what stings me the most.
No, I'm not fired. I quit.
No. Screw you, man. I didn't even have that opportunity.
Right.
It was, not the fact that the priest is standing over me and he said, "Do you want the last rites?" That didn't sting me. Didn't get the opportunity to quit. That was the worst thing about it.
Right. Okay. So I get it.
That's where unhustled comes from. It's to get more from less. So
get more money from less work.
Hours.
Yeah.
Just without selling your hours. That's because we've all got the same amount of time. It's what you do with it that counts. And these days my filter is, will this make me happy? And I think if you have that filter, you're gonna achieve some sort of happiness for yourself, obviously, because that's your filter. But if you're selling hours and you're doing 60, 70, 80 hour weeks, that can't make you happy. For some people, they get off on it, but the sacrifice is it makes you ill. I mean, to be fair, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. He is the epitome of hustle and grind.
Say that name again.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, if you look at him compared to just a few years ago, he looks ill. He physically looks ill. He looks significantly older than what he actually is.
Right.
And
wow.
That would be healthy. Don't get me wrong, it works for him, but I think I'd like to not put myself into an early grave. So yeah, a very long rambling answer to what unHustled is.
That's great. That's perfect.
I don't want to spend my time, at the beck and call of other people. I want the choice to do what I want to do whenever I want to do it. That for me is what I'm working towards. Will it make me happy? I'm not selling my time. It's got to be scalable. These are all the things that kind of are the building blocks of getting that success without selling your time to the devil.
So you mentioned that this was around 0102, and this was in England. So some interesting things happened in England in 01 and 02, other than the fact that you almost died. Because I was there, just so happens.
Apart from that,
some things happened.
It sounds like that scene out of The Life of Brian from the Monty Python. Apart from that, what has happened?
But if you remember, now you were on your deathbed, so you might have missed some things. So might have. But in that
drugs
year,
might have been causing a small haze.
Right. In that year, England defeated Germany 5-1 in the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, it was hard not to notice. You know what? I'm one of these people. I don't actually follow soccer or football, however you want to phrase it.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Good for you.
I'm a rare person. You found the one person in Britain that doesn't follow football.
So that you didn't care that.
I would rather be doing something. Again, I don't get spectator sports. I mean, I was before I was, the sort of 2001, I was housebound for a couple of years. Before that, I was quite active. I'd been in like shooting teams, rock climbing, abseiling, walking, very outsidey, activity type person. But I just never got into spectator sports. And to this day, I still don't get it, if I'm going to be honest. I'd rather be doing something.
I couldn't help be caught up in that World Cup. Let me tell you.
It's hard not to. Don't get me wrong. I remember the atmosphere. It was fabulous to watch because it was an event. It was a landmark.
It was like a phenom. I mean, I wasn't a football fan either. Okay, but
you can't help get caught up in it.
I was in the day that happened, or the night that happened. I was in Edinburgh, like looking for a place to pee because I was drinking too much beer at the Fringe Festival, as one does, right? As you do. And I was on a bus that was headed back to. Eventually, we were going to go back to where? Where was I? RAF Lakenheath. And
I was going to say, I don't know. This is your story. Why are you asking?
Yeah. I'm asking myself, right? I'm asking my brain. Hello, brain. Please play along. All right. And so the bus driver was an English guy, of course. Mm-hmm. And we get back to the bus and he's going crazy. And he's got the game on. And I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, England's beating Germany 5-1. And I'm like, oh. Is that a big deal? And he's like, you have no idea. They're our arch rival. Anyway, I just thought that was a fun story.
It was good times.
So, all right. So let's talk about what you were doing that almost killed you before. Okay. So while you were hustled, what was going on in your life? What were you doing?
I was working for the man, I think, as the kids like to say.
Right. Okay. Yes.
I was doing a job that I thought was where I wanted a career to take me.
Okay.
My
this is a job. Okay.
A job. Yeah. Working for someone. My primary business is or passion was in financial trading, stock market, and all the rest of it. And we can explore that later if you want to. I ended up with a hedge fund at one point. But back then I was, again, working as a trader for this software company. They had private rooms and, it was long commute there, long commute back, long hours during the day, trading the stock market, high pressure job, lots of money on the line, all the rest of it. The usual razzle dazzle of the city life, just without the city element. It was up north. So it was the usual, working for someone else, long, hard hours, stressful job, lots of pressure, targets to reach. And, something just popped, and it was nearly me.
Wow.
So it was, I don't know, hard to describe, but that was it. And, at the weekend, you're young, you're burning the wick at both ends, late nights, early mornings. It just came to its culmination. Prior to then, I'd been on and off ill for years, good health, bad health type of scenario. I didn't know what it was, but then back sort of at that time, it was, I found out what it was called, and it was better go to hospital, because at the time someone said to me, that sounds like it's an appendix. Kind of the pain, the issue. Said,
yeah, and that could kill you too. And
that can be. Well, yeah. that was the only reason why I went into the emergency room. It's like, this could be serious. I've had my appendix out. It nearly, because my friend at the time, he said, he had a rumbling appendix and it nearly get him. Best go and get it checked out just to be on the safe side.
Right.
Went and got it checked out. And just by chance, the head of the Crohn's disease, he was actually the UK's leading Crohn's disease experts in the hospital, and he just happened to be doing a shift in the emergency room, and he said, "I think I know what this is. It's not an appendix." He said, "Stay right there," and it got me admitted in quite quickly and put it under control, and it escalated while I was there, but then eventually. There's a happy ending, which is why we're talking, but it's just by pure chance that it was identified as what it was. Otherwise, I probably would have gone in to have an operation to have the appendix out. And that's usually how they find out, because the damaged part of my intestine is part of the Crohn's condition. That it's right next to where the appendix is. They normally slice you open to whip the appendix out and go, "Oh, it's not the appendix, it's an inflamed intestine."
Wow.
So they would have found out, but I managed to avoid the operation.
So you've got some good karma somewhere, because you got really lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I always look back on it. I mean, while it was a horrible experience, and I was in intensive care for 3-4 weeks. With at one point I had a 24-hour watch of a medical person literally sitting next to my bed, waiting to give me some sort of pain relief. It was very intense. I always play it down, but it was the worst experience from that point of view. It nearly did kill me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on the way back up, you hit the bottom, and there's a turning point somewhere. The priest coming in, saying, "Do you want the last rites?" I didn't realize how bad I was until that moment, and I thought, "Holy shit, I'm not going to let." Sorry, I don't.
You may swear as much as you want. Yes. Please feel free.
Holy smoke!
Yeah.
Holy smoke!
You can say shit. You can say fuck. I don't really care. Yes.
I thought, holy shit! That's what went through my mind. My immediate response is, "No, this isn't going to get me." I refused to give up, because if I'd said yes, I think I probably could have passed it, because the mind plays a big thing. If you give up, then you physically you would have given up. So
right,
that's anyway. But I just thought, my immediate reaction was, no, it's not going to get me. I thought, holy shit, am I that bad? Was what I went through my mind, and it gives you a lot of time to think. So that's when the kind of the world domination plan came into effect. But how can I do it?
Suddenly you became Pinky.
The
brain,
laser beams and the cats, the long furry white cat, call myself Bofeld, all the rest of it.
That's right.
World domination, that plan. So it was that kind of mentality of, all those dreams, those hopes, those desires that we all have.
Yeah.
Okay, because now I've got a new what's the worst that can happen story. What's the worst that could happen? I might lose a couple of quid. What's the worst that could happen? I might have to go and get a day job. I'll have to stack shelves at Walmart. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
It doesn't get any worse than that. And I think for a lot of people, when they have some kind of bad experience, and again, everyone's got a bad experience. I'm not, saying mine's worse than yours. It's not a case of that. It's just when you've had something that shifts your perspective, that's the point that we're trying to get to. However you get there. Some people it's a big event, some people it's a small event. But you have this shift in perspective of, well, what's holding you back? What's the fear? I wanted to own my own business. I've always had that desire from a very young teen. I'd done the usual door-to-door thing like most people, and some type of entrepreneurial spirit, however you want to phrase it. But I'd always had that bug to do something for myself. And this just gave me the opportunity to, okay, there is literally nothing holding me back. I've got to start something if I want to keep the rent paid and the food on the table. And it's got to be over the internet. You know, there's this newfangled thing called the internet was around.
It literally was new and fangled, yes, because we're talking about 01 and 02, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was still dial-up back then. It was,
I get it.
You know, waiting for the beeps, getting the AOL, getting the AOL disc. There was a floppy disk, not even CDs. But you know, it was just that window to the outside world. You know, you had to make it work very, very quickly. And I think when you've got that, let's just get it done and see what happens type of attitude, you can make anything happen. And I think today people have so much opportunity. They don't know how good they've got it. And I think that's also the problem today versus, you know, kind of when I was starting out and kind of taking the online business thing a little bit more seriously through necessity. I think today people have such an abundance of opportunity that's the problem. Like, where do you start? You can literally start a business today if you want to be making money tomorrow. It's unbelievable, the opportunities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's wide open.
I'm sorry. It gets me really excited and passionate to kind of think about this. You know, for anyone who wants to do something either full time or on the side, or you know, augment what they're already doing or light a fire under it. You know, there literally is just opportunity in abundance to make magic happen. You know, and it doesn't take a lot of time. You know, if you just give it a little bit of thought, a little bit of, you know, just sit down and think, you know, where do I want to be, and what's the smartest way to achieve that without slaving yourself, you know, by selling your hours. You know, if you could, when you figure that out, that's where the magic happens. And that's what I'm trying to kind of bring to the world with kind of the unhustled thing. You know, you know what I'm talking about here. We're skirting around it. You know, it's just, how do you get success? Whatever you want to call success, get that without working for, you know, the job just over broke, as I heard it phrased recently.
Right. The JOB, just over broke. Yeah. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with having a job that you like. Now that right. I mean, if you're happy in your job and you're healthy in your job, then there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a different definition of success. But I've figured this out, that like what you said in the beginning there, you said that you'd always had that itch to do your own thing. Well, not all.
I'm glad you put that qualifier on the end.
Yeah. Because it was a rash somewhere in an unmentionable.
Because I could have got a little bit of cream to get that cured up if I'd known.
You needed to get a prescription for that cream. No, not that kind of itch. You've always had that entrepreneurial, as we say, itch, right? But you know, I think a lot of people want to escape their JOB, but they also don't really have that itch. And I think that applied to me. Like, I
don't think it's a bad thing. I mean,
no, I don't think it's a bad thing either, because we're all defining our own definitions of success, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think for some people, it's just they want to be in control of their own destiny, because that was kind of like, I didn't have the sort of the stereotypical lemonade stand. It was, when I say the entrepreneurial thing, for me, very poor upbringing, very poor background. It was, you know, hand to mouth on a working farm that was just over broke. You know, I saw my parents working long, hard hours for very little reward. So if I wanted something extra, like at the time, the start of the journey back then was, I was very into fishing, and, you know, I had some hand-me-downs from some relatives, and I wanted my own fishing rod. So that was it. Said, and you know, I knew where money came from and what it took to get it. And my parents sat me down and said, "Look, we can't afford it, son." And I was okay with that. I said, "But if you want it, you need to find a way to go and earn it." So that's what I did.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I wanted to better my own situation, which is I wanted a new fishing rod. I'd seen this one that I liked. So it's not that I wanted, you know. I can't really
you didn't have like a burning desire to change the world. You just wanted a fishing rod.
Yeah, I just wanted a fishing rod.
Right.
But that gave me those skills to kind of go knocking on door to door and say, you know, hey, whatever the thing. Well, I was buying bed plants and hanging baskets. I was buying them wholesale off my parents and selling them retail.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
you know,
smart.
I was just knocking door to door. You know, and as a kid, you know, you're making money for, you know, a couple £100 for a fishing rod back in the 90s. You know, that's a lot of money, you know, to earn in a weekend.
Right.
So I realized that you could go and create something from nothing back then. And, you know, that was a lesson that I learned. And I didn't really appreciate it until many years later, because I didn't have that traditional entrepreneurial itch as you described it. I didn't have it in the same way that most people do. It's just, I just wanted to be in control of my own thing. I wanted to go and get something. And this was the quickest route to that, was to be in charge of getting more money to buy the thing that I wanted, rather than go and work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and hope that you save enough. I could go and control my own destiny, work for a few days, get a couple £100, and, the following week, yeah, fantastic. New fishing rod. Thanks very much.
I have a digression that I just thought of, that like when I was like really young, like still in elementary school. So, that's pretty young. I remember my dad had been, pretty happy in his job. He came home every day, and, maybe it was late, maybe it was early, but he seemed unhustled to me, and then his company, somehow, I think they got bought by a new company, and he lost his management position, and he was laid off. Right. So that, right. And then, so he was on like an unemployment kind of dole situation for a while. Yeah. And then one of his friends that was hired on again as a manager hired him on, but now he was back to working instead of being a boss. Right. So now he's back into, basically he spent all of his day, cutting open and making boxes for furniture. Okay. And he hadn't worked in a long time labor wise, right? Work, but not manual labor. And he came home and his hands were like bloody, literally bloody. Right. From paper cuts, from doing this box thing.
Death
right?
by, literally, he experienced the phrase, death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Right. And as that young kid, seeing those bloody hands on my dad, and then thinking all of those toys that I'm asking about all the time. I'm like, wow. I had that experience.
You have an appreciation for what it takes to get what you have.
Right.
I mean, whatever little that you have that appreciation. Because I had that similar experience. I knew, because we lived and worked on the farm, you could, despite the fact that my parents were working all hours, I got to see them while they were working. So I didn't miss, they were always there, even though they were working. I could go and talk to them and play next to them. So they were never
gone, right?
Not there, if that makes sense. So I didn't have that. So I didn't miss out in that regard. So I don't begrudge what happened. But we understood what it took to put food on the table, because we had the value of what money gave. And where it came from and what it took, that traditional hard work, as it were. So, I understood the value of money very early on. Similar experience to yourself. You knew what it took. Your dad came home with, bloody hands, fingers, death by 1,000 paper cuts to put the shiny thing that you were asking about, and you kind of made that connection. And I think that's a valuable lesson to learn very early on for anyone. Just the value of something. What it takes to get the things that you want in life.
Amen. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about what happened after you lived. Congratulations, by the way.
Yes,
I'm glad you made it.
Happy ending. I survived.
Yeah. And I also want to ask, did you actually end up getting those last rites from the priest, or did you say no?
No. I said no. There was no hesitation. I remember it very vividly. It was just this, if you imagine dressed all in black, I was looking out the window, to be honest. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was summer in the UK, and I was just literally daydreaming out the window, or maybe it was the drugs. I can't quite tell.
Right. Who knows?
Bit of both.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. Right. Okay.
Maybe it was a little bit of both. But just remember seeing this, knock on the door, and it was, son, can I offer you the last rites? And without hesitation, it was no. And I knew
I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to go.
But exactly. It was no. And I was offended. I remember being offended. I don't use that word. It's a word that's touted around a lot these days, but I remember being offended. How dare he say, if I'm ready to give up? I am not ready to give up. And that was, I think, a pivotal moment of, I've got things left to do. And that's when, I started using the time that I had to kind of, jokingly put the world domination plans in order. But I was just thinking of all the things that I'd left on and all the dreams that, I wish, wish I could do this, or wish someone could help me, or, all those kind of wish things, wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that. It gives you a lot of time in your young early 20s to kind of think about all the things that you have done and things that you've not yet accomplished. And so that's what I set about doing, all the things that I want to do. And I've thankfully done a lot in my teens, like doing stuff. I was very active in like a military youth organization called the Air Training Corps. So I had a very active, childhood and teens, and I'd always like to be doing something. So I think from that perspective, I'd scratch the itch, as it were, to stay with the phrase. So from a work point of view, I was unsatisfied, and that's what I was motivated towards fixing. I hadn't at least tried to start my own business, even though I'd always wanted one, and I'd done other things to kind of get some extra cash here and there for various things over the years. I'd never actually made that decision to, okay, go and start your own business. I've always had this desire, this dream to do my own thing and be responsible. Because I'd seen my parents, they could do what they wanted to do, take the day off here, weekend off there to take us places or do trips with us. So we could literally do what we wanted. I'd never wanted to work for someone else and be told what to do, because I'd seen what was behind door number 2. So
right.
So I always wanted
Makes
to do
sense.
that. So I thought to myself, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. As well as my hands were tied as well, I had to go and do something, and I'd always wanted to do it. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to make these ideas happen, and they need to happen really fast, and that's what I did. I took £1,000 off my credit card at the time. The skill set that I had was with the stock market. So I took £1,000 and turned that into about 92,500 in 8 months from my bedroom, my recovery bed, as it were.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Didn't look back. So that was the skill set that I had. The passion that I wanted to follow was to trade the stock market, and that's what I did. And then, I was very active on internet forums, because I couldn't really go out and do much. I was about 80% housebound for a couple of years. Wow. So it was a case of my social life was online, and I was active on forums back then. I suppose the equivalent today would be Facebook groups,
right?
But I was on forums talking to people, and you kind of just talking to like-minded people on specialist forums and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what's good, here's what I'm trading, all the rest of it, here's how I'm doing it. And then people start asking you, hey, can you show me how to do it? Can you show me how to do it? Can you show me? And more and more kept saying, can you show me? So I started coaching people how to do it. And that's where the kind of the coaching people came from. And then I created a course, started selling courses, started coaching people. And it was just that progression of, okay, well, how do I start this online business? And that kind of started hand in hand as I was trading my own accounts. And, suddenly I had, $250,000 in subscription revenues from
holy cow,
small websites very quickly with no employees. And it's all I was doing was telling people what I was doing. And it wasn't that time intensive what I was doing. It was just
right. Yes.
telling people what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is people start, fast forward a few years, people start saying, well, how did you do that for the business? Can you do it for my business? So then it was more like business advice, business consult. How did you grow your business online? How did you do this? How did you do that? But more from the business point of view rather than the trading point of view. So it's like you start consulting, you start teaching, you start doing courses. That's where that side of it came from. And it I wasn't really looking for it. People started asking me, it's like, oh, maybe I've got something that people will pay for. And
right.
I've got a set that I learned.
And it sounds like people were already
coalface.
Yeah, people were actually coming to you and asking, "Oh, by the way, I see you did XYZ. How'd you do that?" Right? Well, if they're already interested, right, you could probably ask them for money, right?
Yeah, in 2010, I didn't up till about 2010. I thought I was this unique little fairy snowflake,
right.
or whatever.
Like a unicorn.
I didn't know that other people were doing this.
Okay.
I was just, because I was completely honest, I was in an island. I was just an island in a giant ocean, and I didn't realize that there were other people with similar experiences doing similar things. Because the internet was brand new. No one was doing it back in 2001, and if they were, you didn't really know about them. So for many years, I just kept my head down, doing my own thing, and people just kept coming to me. And then when I stuck my head up and looked around, I thought, oh, all these other people over here are wanting to do the same thing. So then you start talking to other people and joining communities and having conversations like us. And, suddenly you find all these people who want to know how to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, why aren't other people doing it? You just don't make that connection. You just think either everyone's doing it and that they don't need to know your help or they don't know about it. It's just, I was very linear in that. Sorry, it was very black and white. Either they know and they're doing it, or they don't know and don't want to do it. There was no in between.
Right. I think we all have this bias. This is one of these biases that we all have. Like, we assume. I think that I don't know. I won't put words into your mouth, but for me, anything I know, right? I assume everybody's smarter than me and already knows all of that, right?
Well, that was kind of where I was. Either they knew it and they were doing it,
right?
And if they weren't quite there yet, then they were coming to me if we crossed paths, or they weren't aware and they didn't know about it at all,
right?
And they had no interest in it,
right?
Because none of the people, I suppose, because we were talking a little bit before the show, the people in our circle had no clue about it. They didn't know what we did. They didn't know that you could do something over the internet or start a business. They had no concept because it was all brand new. And for many years, like my circle, like Phil, it was always, Phil, what do you do? I just push a few buttons and money appears in my bank account. People didn't.
Right.
You do something with computers. You fix computers? No, I don't fix computers. I just press a few buttons and money appears.
Yeah.
People just didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
So you just stop talking about it because no one's any the wiser. So that was my experience with the people who, like, they don't know and they've got no interest. And the people who did know, I always thought that they were doing it. And again, that somewhere in between of the people who wanted to know how to do it, I started to see that actually there's a lot of people that need help to do it, and they don't want to sell the soul to the devil and do the 60, 70, 80-hour work week. And here we are today.
Yeah, sorry, it's perfect. I kind of had that experience of you push a button and money comes out the first time I did an option trade. So that's kind of what you were doing, right? So have you ever heard of the?
Well, that's the primary business,
the website Motley Fool. Yeah. So they've got. I had been a subscriber to one of their newsletters or another for a while, right? So, and then I subscribed to their option service, which is similar to what your other business seems like. Anyway, it
is. It's exactly that. It's like trading on options.
Yeah. It's so, but I don't know because I haven't looked at a lot of other. I don't know what other option trading people are doing. I'm just doing the Motley Fool version, right? Which it seems different, but I'm getting extra winded about, like, all I wanted to do is say, the first time that happened where I set up this strategy, like they said, and then they said, oh, and then you get paid the premium. And if everything goes right, you just get to keep that. Right. And I'm like, right. So like a quarter goes by and I go, wow, okay. I get it that I needed to have X number of dollars to make all that happen. But that was very little work for, $1,000 or something, right? That was like very little work, right? All it really took was money, and intestinal fortitude, as they say.
Yes, and the occasional sleepless night.
Right. Well, yeah. I think I like options because of what they are. They've got optionality, right? And if you set up your strategy right, your downside isn't that bad, is what we like to say. The
definition of an option is depending on what you're doing with it. For most people, I think just for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, the best way of describing it is it's like a deposit. The worst thing that can happen is you lose your deposits. Yeah, right. Maybe. And that if they're brand new to you and you've never heard them before, that's the simplest way of thinking about it. It's not quite accurate, but just so it paints a picture for anyone who's not familiar with them. But yeah, I mean that's the worst that can happen.
Right.
And,
you lose your bet.
Benefits.
Right. You take some money to the bank, you put it in, and then it's gone. I suppose I've never set up one of those. Usually the strategies that we set up is like you end up buying a stock that you wanted. or you.
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Right.
It's like it depends on what you're doing.
Right. It depends on the strategy. Yes. Right. Yeah. So anyway,
interesting. But it is interesting that, I mean, it's if you're gonna.
That was just it was down like what you were saying before. It was like this really shocking aha moment where it was like you understand suddenly why like people that have money find it so much easier to make more money.
Yeah, it's not the fact that they've got money.
Well, I don't know, maybe. I mean,
don't get me wrong, it helps.
It helps.
Because,
yes,
it helps.
It helps.
But you can literally start with, and this is the difference.
That's true.
Compared to
you
the
don't need a lot.
early noughties.
Right.
You just need to know a small piece of information and
Right.
go and have a conversation with someone about, you've got something that you could do, a skill that you can sell, an offer, a service that you can offer, or, because you're always, wherever you are now as an individual, you're ahead of other people who want to get where you are. And similarly, you're in a place where you're looking forward to where people are and you want to strive to where they're at on their journey.
Right.
So you can, so one point is everyone's got this innate ability to help someone bring them up to their level, and they'll pay you for that.
Right. That's pretty amazing.
And when you have that realization, then all you need to do is talk to the right people. And the great thing about the internet is there's all these little micro communities, and in micro community, there still could be several thousand people in it. I'm sure you can find one or two people that you have a conversation, and if it makes sense to come up to some arrangements, I'll show you how to do this. You pay me for my time, and job's done. Now, again, you get to that time element, but that gets you on the road. Yes, you're going to have to do that at first. But if you can find 10 people and do it in a group environment, then you're doing it once and selling it 10 times. And that's, but you've got to do it once first to kind of figure it out.
Right. And get paid.
Because it's the first time you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the point is when anyone has that kind of shift in, I suppose, genuinely, it's a paradigm shift for most people. When you have that realization, suddenly the opportunity to create wealth from nothing because of the internet, you can find someone on this planet that will pay you how to be better at Scrabble or basket weaving or underwater kickboxing.
Underwater kickboxing. That's great.
But these were always joke businesses. I remember like my lecturers at university in the 90s were talking about, the joke business was underwater basket weaving or underwater kickboxing. But there's a community around the world that supplies these people for underwater basket weaving supplies.
Anything you can think of, even if it's a joke. Right. Yes.
It started off as a joke, but these things are out there. And when you can have that realization, you can literally start with something that you're knowledgeable about and are passionate about to kind of go and do it, to get up in the morning and to do it and help someone achieve that success that you're at, wherever that is. And this is what I mean by the opportunity to have an idea today, go and talk to a dozen people via the internet, Facebook groups, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, wherever people are hanging out. Wherever people are hanging out, and say, if you're interested in this thing, I'd love to have a conversation with you about helping you get better at it.
Right.
Have that conversation, and you only need one person to say yes. Oh, and by the way, here's some money. I'd like you to help me for the next 6 weeks become better at this thing, whatever your thing is.
Yeah,
you've suddenly got a business, a side.
You've got a coaching business.
How do you want to phrase it? I mean, there's a whole community out there. So now the only problem is where do you start?
Right. Which niche do you want to pick? Right.
What you pick? If this one's not working out how you like it, there's another one. There are lots of opportunities out there today.
Right.
And when you have that shift, and this is why I get excited, and you can start a business, and by the end of the week, and given that it's Friday when we're doing this, so today you could be making money. It sounds like a pipe dream, right? Not everyone's able to make it happen today, but if you're absolutely crystal clear on what you want to do and who you want to help, you can likely find someone tomorrow and start having a conversation about helping them achieve the same, being better at that thing, and that's the magic. When you have that absolute clarity on what you do and who you do, the money starts to follow. And again, not everyone's there on day one. You've got to kind of think about it. I've got this idea, and you start to develop it. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a while to bring that to the boil for some people. But if you know what you want to do, don't let anything hold you back. Because I did for years, and it made me unhappy.
It made you almost die.
Exactly, yeah. And it literally put me in the grave.
Almost.
But yeah, almost. Not today. Not today.
Knock on simulated wood grain finish.
that's the magic. When you can figure that out, whatever your thing is, I think you should always pursue it. Just if you're unhappy now, pursue the happiness. What's going to make you happy? Figure that out and go and do it. And someone will pay you to help them achieve the same thing.
Talk about your boss did you a favor when you were there on your deathbed, right? Sort of.
It wasn't. It was a little bit shocking because it was unexpected. And to be fair, I mean, I couldn't have gone back to work anyway because I was quite severely ill. For those who don't know, Crohn's disease is like an intestinal disorder. It comes with a host of various problems and ailments. Thankfully, it's mild, but I have permanent mild symptoms these days. But at the time, it was nearly killed me.
But now it's more or less sorted out, right?
Yes, it's technically inactive. It goes through periods of activity and inactivity. It's inactive.
Good.
It's mild.
Right.
I've got scarring in my intestine. I've got about 9 inches of damaged intestines.
So that means you've got to keep an eye on it, but for the most part, you're okay. Right.
I have permanent mild symptoms, even though it's not technically active. So that's what I have to combat. So I get tired a lot and fatigue and a whole host of other interesting, but thankfully mild ailments. And it's, in that regard, again, I've gone from being a pessimist to an optimist. While it's a bad situation, it could be worse. There's worse people off. So I've always got to think about it. Again, it's this something. The switch flipped over from the woe is me, why can't I get a leg up on life type of attitude, probably like most people. And that's the negativity, the thing that holds you back. If you can switch that over and say, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, literally, what is the worst?
If this were my superpower, what would this be? What would this look like?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly,
if this is my hero moment, what would this look like?
What's holding you back? Yeah. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? All right, I might have to stay at the day job. I might have to go and stack shelves in Walmart briefly. All right, it's a temporary setback, but that is the worst that could happen if you try and start your own thing. And you can do it on the side, as we've just described. You can do it on the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got off track again. Yeah. So your boss. We do that exactly. Yes. So what happened there when you were basically unable to go to work, but your boss came in and did you this favor? So what happened on that? Because it made you upset.
It made me upset as we've established a few times.
Right, but we don't know what happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, he came in and he said to me, when you get better, there's no job for you. But at the time, I didn't know I was going to be housebound. I couldn't have gone back to work if I didn't want to. But it just frustrates me a bit because I didn't even get the opportunity to quit. That was the thing.
Which I think is just tickles me there.
Yeah, to be fair, I think now that you've asked me, and the more I'm thinking about it, that was probably the final flip of the switch. I mean, I'd already kind of having these lots of eye-opening experiences, but I think that was it. It's like, okay, well, there's no safety net anymore. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't have gone back to the job anyway.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, I've got to find something. I've got to find a way to make it work. And it's not a case of got to. And the phrase that got me through all of this, it was better it sounds so cliche, but it was literally almost like a mantra. It was better to have tried and failed than to never have tried at all. And up to that point, I had never tried.
Right.
And
yes.
Again, it does sound cliche, but I remember it was like a chant, a daily chant. Constantly better to have tried and failed. That was literally the thing that was driving me. It's better to have tried than to never have tried. And so that's what I decided to do. It was pen and paper out. Okay, well, what are the things that I can try? What do I know?
And I bet you probably did have some minor setbacks and failures even after. In the overall story of success, we all experience lots of trips and fall downs, and it's not as long as you're still breathing. You're still good.
The way I think about it these days is what most people do is, again, let's just imagine you've got the business on the high street and it's already working. But imagine if a customer came in and give you and asked for a refund. Mm-hmm. And because of that refund, you just, bugger it, and you shut the shop. I've had a refund. You get angry and you get frustrated and you shut the shop because you had a refund, because you had an unpleasant experience. You wouldn't do that.
No.
Because it's a real
absurd.
Business.
Right.
You're open from 9 to 5 or whatever thing.
Right.
That wouldn't happen if you had the real business. But for whatever reason, because you're behind the computer or you don't have the traditional office environment or the traditional business experience, when you hit that hurdle because of some exceptionally minor difficulty, which is what you were just describing, we all experience, most people give up. And
wow, yeah,
what I remember doing was, again, coming back to, okay, I've hit this hurdle. And I remember many frustrations sat at my computer because I had nothing. I had nowhere else to go. I had nothing else to do. I couldn't go anywhere, even if I wanted to. How can I overcome this? I've hit this bloody brick wall. Okay, now, it seems like a mountain to climb when you're experiencing it. You're in the trenches and you've got your nose pressed up against this almost imaginary obstacle. It's like, well, how can I overcome it? How can I get around it? How can I go through it? Okay, what do I need to do to get past this thing? Can I just ignore it? Is it really a problem? And these, it's almost like a Socratic the Socratic method of just constantly asking questions and being curious about the problem to be able to overcome it. Again, I am generalizing because if we had a specific problem, we can probably go and find a solution. There's this magical thing called Google these days that you can type the question into.
Yeah, that actually works better.
Remember, we didn't have that.
Yeah, I know.
We had to go and we had to figure it out. You want a website? You've got to code it in Dreamweaver. Okay, let's go and learn Dreamweaver.
Right.
Remember the dates?
I do.
Now you can just one-click install. Bazang.
Bazang. WordPress is there. That's right.
Yeah, WordPress appears in for you. You want it to look nice? Install a free theme. Shazam! It's done.
They should install those like magic words. That
really isn't a problem. But that's the thing. You can, whatever the question is, how do I fix blank? Someone's answered it somewhere. The problems that we have these days that hold us back, we can fix them. But back then, we have to figure it out the hard way. We've got off the beaten track again, haven't we?
That's fine. It's the show's all about digressions, so it's good. I like it. So, but basically, I wanted to get there that the message of that was your boss.
Don't
I
let
think
problems hold you back.
Yeah. Well, your boss actually did you a favor there.
He did. Yeah, he did me big favor.
I don't know I don't know whether or not you would have decided to quit if you wouldn't have been fired. I know you once fired, right?
I couldn't go back to work.
I know you couldn't.
Yeah.
But you would have liked the now you think, oh, I would have liked the satisfaction of quitting. Which
yes, that was really the big thing.
I get it.
I would have liked to have told him where to go and what he could do when he got there.
Exactly. No, I totally get that. I actually forcefully quit one job. If you haven't done that yet, you should do it. Where
you know what?
Yeah.
Shortly afterwards, I had that experience. When my health was a little bit better, I thought I was hitting a little bit of a rough patch with the internet business thing, and very nervous. And you kind of went back to that default. I remember doing a 3-week stint as telesales, and it was like inbound and outbound sales calls, and I had that experience. It was okay. It just really reminded me that I do not want to work for someone else, because I did a very brief stint, did the job thing for a couple of weeks, and had the pleasure of quitting. Right. It just prompted the reminder.
Yeah.
I was like, but it just really shut the door on, I'm never going to work for anyone ever again. I don't care what it takes. I will crawl over broken glass to not work for someone and be completely and 100% responsible for my own actions. And I think that is the most satisfying thing that anyone can ever do, if that's ultimately what you want to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want to work for someone and you're happy with that, I'm not saying don't do it. For me, it didn't work.
Right.
And that served as a reminder to, I'm so glad that I did that, if only for the reason it really solidified that, I can't work for anyone. It's not that I don't want to. It's like I can't. It's just not in my mindset. It's not the way I'm made up.
Right. I think now for me, I think it's important for me to keep evaluating what I think success is, because I've already figured out that, another gadget or widget or, another shopping trip is not going to make me more happy. Right. I think most people,
I know what you mean, materialistically.
Right. Consumerism is sort of like a dead end for me. It's like,
well, I've never had, despite the poor upbringing, I'm not particularly materialistic. I didn't strive for more stuff. I never had that, despite the kind of stereotype of the poor upbringing that might bring out those desires later in life. I never had that. It's like, it ain't broken. I'm not going to fix it. And that was how I was. But I think you're absolutely right. When you've got that, if you want to buy something, you could. The materialistic side, I think when you've got that taken care of, I think having that, and we said earlier, have the filter of, is this going to make me happy?
Right.
What's the motivation? What's the reason that I'm going to do this? And for me, I'd like to filter everything through. Is this interesting? Was kind of one thing. Do I find talking to this person interesting? And to be fair, this conversation, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But at the same time, if it wasn't enjoyable for either of us, it would be a very short conversation. It probably wouldn't be back and forth. We probably wouldn't be laughing and joking. So it's like, is it interesting? Is it going to make me happy? And I think if you can put that filter on your life, not just business, I think things start to take on a different dimension for you. Will this truly make me happy?
Yeah, I
if
like
it doesn't, go and seek it out.
Don't do it. Right. The one of the filters that I heard before, I can't remember where it came from now. Maria Popova, maybe? She does a blog for brain pickings. Yeah, she was on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and she was like, "Yeah, one of her filters is, I'll never do anything only for money and prestige." Right now, it's okay if something happens to make me money and is prestigious, but it has to have it has to make me happy. It has to, maybe improve my health. There has to be some other additional filter. You can't just be chasing those two things only. Now,
no, exactly.
Does that make sense?
I do, absolutely crystal clear. Yes.
Yeah.
I completely see that as a motivation. I mean, the way that I have run my business for a long time, it's like I can say, I know how to generate clients. I know how to generate customers, but I don't want or need clients and customers because I can produce without having customers because I've got the stock market thing.
Sure. Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
The reason why I do it is, as you've said, I enjoy doing it. I truly, truly enjoy helping other people see success. I am the type of person that likes to stop tourists and see if they need directions.
Right.
That's it.
You sound like one of these weirdos like me. I'm like 6 foot, right? So I always whenever I'm on an airplane, right, I think I've got an opportunity to be awesome because I'm tallish, not really tall, just taller than average, right? And there's tons of people that, just enough to be able to pick up a suitcase and put it into the overhead. I can make people's lives a little bit easier just by doing that, right? That's a weird thing, I think, maybe.
No, I know. I mean, I suppose along the same lines, it's like holding a door open for someone. Right? Everyone does it. You know what? It makes me happy doing it. And I'm not looking for the thank you. It's just no. Just the eye, just give me the eye contact. I know that you know what I did. And, that gives me, it's something really small, but you can find a little bit of happiness somewhere in your life and just do something that gives you joy or pleasure. And I think if you have that filter, then again, from the business point of view, I get to choose who I work with. Right. And whether I think coming back to even though the money's good, and when I needed the money, I still had the same filter. I need to work with the clients because, hey, cash flow, we all experience cash flow problems, and for some reason, despite the fact that the bank account being full, I just didn't have access to it today. So you need a client but that's cash flow. Every business experiences it. So you might need the clients because it's going to help with the cash flow, whatever the thing is. But at the same time, if this person is an absolute plonker, I don't need to work with them. And I think if you have that mindset of, okay, is this person going to contribute to that? Is it an interesting project? Are they a decent person? Have some morals and ethics about how you conduct yourself and the clients you work with. And I think that can create, certainly a culture around what you do. And, you bring people up to your standard, your ethics, your belief system, whatever that thing is, and only work with those people because, as you said before, other than money, if this person was a plonker, I'm not going to work with them. And to be fair, they might, but that's the luxury that we have as business owners. Yes, I might need the customer, but I don't need the customer because I've got a different set of criteria because people want what you have, and some of them have got the money and they'll be happy to. Well, I'll pay you double. It's not about paying me double, mate. It's the fact that you're an idiot and I don't want to work with you. and they look at you like you're crazy. But for me, that's a differentiator.
Yeah,
that is a set of standards.
That's the dickhead filter.
It's integrity. It's all of these things, and it might be that the other person thinks that I'm an idiot, and I'm okay. I think being okay with that, I think it's a good thing, and I think more people need to do that, and just be genuine and true to themselves, and that's what I understand by kind of that phrase, and that kind of, all these things fall into the other category of outside of money, apart from money, what else is going to help you achieve happiness?
Right.
And because if you're spending time with someone, you want that to be enjoyable. So you don't want the other person. You don't want there to be a personality clash. So for me, that's high on my priority list. If you don't like me, I'm cool with that. We just won't be doing business because I don't want to. Right. I don't want to. I don't want to relapse at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you've got to protect your calm bubble, right?
It's simple. It really is that simple. Work with people that bring you joy. Do things that bring you happiness, and the money will follow. As we said, if underwater basket weaving is your thing, then you can find those people.
You can do that. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So you are at unhustled.com, and a little bird told me that you can go to unhustled.com/VVV and find a cool welcome page for people that listen.
There's all sorts of goodies there. There's several goodie bags. Sadly, they're all digital. There's no sweeties or anything like that, sadly.
Digital goodies.
Maybe with 3D printing, that could happen soon. You could have a physical goodie bag delivered via 3D printer. That's what the future holds for us.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, there's a digital goodie bag at unhustled.com/VVV. There's lots of downloads. Some of the things that we've talked about, how to there's a little quiz if you want to kind of see if you need help with businesses. There's bonuses. There's how to have conversations with people that are kind of like we've had a bit of a businessy type conversation amongst other things, but it's how to have fun in that conversation. Whether you want to speak with clients or not, I think it's a good framework to help you have an interesting conversation. I don't know if you remember, there is an old phrase, and you don't really see it much these days, but he's a good or she's a good conversationalist.
Yeah.
Just be interesting. So there's a little framework that I've used when I'm having, conversations with clients, but it's just really a nice structure to use for any conversation, and just to be interesting and to be a good conversationalist. I think that's kind of useful in all walks of life. So yeah, there's a nice goodie bag for anyone that wants to go there. At the link. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes as well.
It will be. It's early Christmas for anybody that listens. Yes, soon. So check it out. As you do.
I was just going to say as well, if anyone wants to have a chat, I'm very open and chatty as you like. But if someone wants to kind of bounce ideas around, if you've got something that you want to, if you want to do the underwater basket weaving and you want to know where you can get started with it, let's have a conversation.
But not if you're a dickhead, then just stay away.
Yes, but stay away. Dickheads need not apply.
Well, this has been a blast, Phil. I appreciate you hanging out with me for a little while, and you have a good one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for listening. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been an honor and a privilege. You have a great day, sir. Thank you.
And yourself. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.